Hello and welcome to Leaders of Tomorrow Season 10. It's been 10 seasons of hand-holding and guiding India's entrepreneurs such as yourself. I'm Sunanda Jayaseelan. On the show tonight, we are talking in our Diwali series with companies and businesses that are making a difference and whose voice matters. Who better to talk to us than from the e-com space than e-com giant Myntra? In this exclusive conversation, I sat down with the CEO of Myntra, Nandita Sinha, to talk to her about the trends that we're seeing from the e-com space. I spoke to her about sales. I spoke to her also about how Tier 3 and Tier 4 markets are driving sales when it comes to just the fashion industry and the e-com and retail space. Listen.
Festivals are all about festive sales. And e-commerce has seen an exponential rise in India in the last decade, especially through their annual sales. Many small, local brands have also emerged in the last couple of years to serve customers during the Great Indian Shopping Mela. Leaders of Tomorrow caught up with Myntra, a leading e-commerce player in fashion, to understand how well prepared the online players are and how Myntra is gearing up for the super sale.
I'm so happy to have finally managed to get time with you, Nandita. I know it's been a very busy period since you've taken over in Jan of this year. And this is possibly the busiest period of the year for you. And I'm so happy that you've managed to make some time for us.
Thank you. My pleasure entirely.
Thank you for joining us, and so much to talk about. But let's, of course, talk about BFF and the fact that this is possibly the biggest sale for you, or is it the year-ender?
I think what is really special about this year's festive season is the fact that this is the first festive season after 2 years where people are really stepping out of their homes, they're celebrating with families, traveling to meet families, celebrating with friends. And there is a huge upbeat sentiment in the market. I think the markets are picking up and it also gives us a great opportunity to help style our consumers for the festive season. And that's what BFF is all about.
Let's break that down and really talk about perhaps what segments or what categories you're anticipating will see really high demand. Clothing, of course. What else?
I think, like I said, as the festive season started in the beginning of this quarter, which is the festivals of Rakhi, Ganesh Chaturthi, we started seeing a huge upsurge in categories which are built around festivities. So women's ethnic wear, for example, we've seen great traction around that and sales going up by twice the normal days during the festive times of this season. But also, like I said, completing the look, so categories like jewelry, footwear, really growing during this time. What also has been a great, story as far as growth is concerned is men's occasion wear. So you're seeing a lot of, I think 30% Y-on-Y growth on the men's occasion wear because, again, 2 years there were no occasions and therefore no fashion shopping that happened for that. But now people are really stepping out and that's a segment that's growing. I think what's really interesting, and we'll see these trends continue as we go into the next few years also, that even teen fashion and youth fashion is becoming a big trend. So this year for us also, we've seen that our youth collection has increased to 30,000 style, or teen collection has increased to 30,000 styles. And that's really a segment that's growing. So I think these are the categories that we're really going to see huge growth in. Along with that, beauty and personal care has been a great, is an adjacent category to us from a fashion standpoint, and this is a category we are seeing huge growth in. So whether our selection, which has grown twice what it was last year, to almost 1,400 plus brands participating in it, to what we are seeing consumers pick up from this category, all of it is seeing a tremendous growth. So I think that's where we are seeing us take big bets for the festive season.
Okay. We were speaking about trends as far as just your categories and your segments are concerned. I want to talk pricing also as a strategy and as a trend. Typically, because it's like you were saying, 2 years people haven't really spent. What's the trend been for the market, not just for your company? Trend been for the market, has it been slightly on the higher side? Are people willing to spend more because they haven't spent so far?
I think two things have happened over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
One is especially for Myntra, because we are a platform for curated branded selection. What we are also seeing our consumers do is pick up new season merchandise, which typically they are then willing to pay a little more for.
Okay.
So I think that has been a great growth story for us as we've started this year, especially since April and May, where people are actually upping their office wardrobes, their going out wardrobes, etc., and really picking up new season merchandise as part of their wardrobes. I think, however, as you look at the festive season, right, I think the festive season is really about great selection at accessible, making great selection accessible to our consumers. To that effect, I think creating this huge array of selection that I spoke about, for us, international brands is a big play that we enable on the platform, because that is about accessibility. And you have Trendyol from Turkey, Free Soul from Italy. So it's actually bringing the best of global fashion. And value constructs through our bank partnerships like Axis and ICICI, rewards that almost 200 brands are giving to our insider customers. So that's really the whole strategy around making fashion and making brands, both international, D2C, Indian homegrown brands, accessible to our customers.
Okay. For you personally, you of course took over early this year, although you've been with Myntra.
With the group.
With the group for a while now. What has this period been like for you? What have your learnings been?
The festive season?
Yeah.
I think the festive season is all, more so this year, but always is about really anticipating what customers will need and how the market is going to turn out to be, and therefore prepping for that much, much more in advance. Also, the festive season is about setting new benchmarks for customers and for brand partners, and really helping create opportunities for the brand partners to bring their best to the customers. So I think it is anticipation and setting up new benchmarks, keeping the team excited, motivated, because it's a huge scale event. People work really hard.
Yeah.
So I think bringing that sense of purpose and that sense of excitement and that sense of innovation, I think those are three big things that are always there. This festive season have remained so. Really driving scale and doing things differently with innovation has been the other big thing.
Okay. Anyone who's watching anything online or even TV, I'm sure, can't help but notice your ads, and you have brand ambassadors like Virat Kohli and Anushka. What is having these really big names, and you have several such big names on your bandwagon promoting your products, what is having those voices and those brand ambassadors, what does that mean for you as a business? And based on that, your advice for a small business to say, this is perhaps, if you're working with someone not as big as, these stars, but if you're working with the brand ambassador, this is perhaps how you should be working to ensure you're getting the best value and ensuring that your brand identity is being communicated.
I think, especially for us, as we go deeper into T2, T3 markets, T1, T2, T3 markets, I think having names like Virat Kohli, Anushka Sharma, Ranbir Kapoor and Kiara Advani are helping us communicate our story to these consumers at scale. They carry stature, and it's a very, very good mutually symbiotic relationship where we build on each other's fashion and stature credentials. So I think that's what these big names bring to the table. And therefore the reach that they provide and the relatability that they provide to audiences across the country. This year we've reached out to almost 250 million consumers through our advertising for BFF. Also, what is very important as with celebrities of this stature, but even different kinds of celebrities, is to tell a great story. I think that's very important, and that's what I think we've been able to do this year, is to create a great story along with these great names and build an association. For small businesses, I would definitely say that social media is really something to tap into. Almost 50% of the consumers today are Gen Z consumers who are hooked onto social media. So how do you use social media celebrities, influencers, and help them tell your brand story is something which is very, very key. So I think those would be my two pieces of advice.
Time for a quick break. Much more on the other side with Nandita Sinha. To stay tuned. Welcome back. You're with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow. And tonight, I'm in conversation with Myntra as part of our Diwali special series. You said something interesting. I just want to come back to that about tier 2 and tier 3 consumers. How important is this segment of the market becoming for brands like yourself? Yeah. And are you speaking differently to them? If you could, in a nutshell, make this a masterclass of sorts to say, for anyone who's watching this interview, as India's leading retailer, this is how you are talking to them and your advice for our audience.
I would say that this consumer is very important. A large part of our new consumers, a large part of our consumption will start happening from T2, T3 markets. And we are already seeing signs of them. I think two things are really driving this trend. The first is that the fashion trends and sensibilities and the inspiration for consumers from these parts of the country are actually becoming quite similar to that of the big towns and metros. And therefore, the aspiration to really own brands, adapt brands, and wear, and really be a part of the trendy fashion branded ecosystem is something that these consumers are also really exhibiting. And that's really something which we depend on. Also, if you look at I think for us, the biggest driver for our growth in these markets is going to be the growth of branded fashion in itself. How do we actually take branded fashion to these consumers in a bigger and better and create access for a lot of our brand partners for these consumers? I think what is important when we, talk to these consumers is really tap into the local and more relatable the influencers for these ecosystems. So whether they are ecosystems, the influencers who are regional or who are probably talking more to the Gen Z of this geography, I think picking up on those influencers and talking about more slice of life, having more slice of life conversations with them, inspiring them on fashion trends which are more accessible or in a way that is more accessible. I think those are big pieces. One big part of our strategic investment has been in social commerce.
I was coming to that,
which is actually helping consumers be inspired and really, take the inspiration to commerce or inspiration to try journey, make it much, much smaller for these consumers.
Sure.
For us, Myntra Studio is one such initiative where we really seamlessly integrate the inspiration to commerce journey across the funnel. But also Myntra Live, where we see a lot of consumers actually from T2, T3 with 100% engagement rate. So all of our consumers who actually see a video engage with that video and that influencer and understand what fashion trends are, how they can adapt it in their life, and what are the brands that can actually be important for that. We really see this ecosystem thriving and helping do the content to commerce journey, especially for T2, T3.
Okay. There's, of course, a lot of conversations that happen around fast fashion, and I'm sure, you've got your fair share of questions around that. How do you respond to that?
I think the Gen Z consumer wants to adopt trends very, very quickly. I think that's what's really happening. So they look at a trend online, they look at it on social media, they look at their favorite influencer wearing it, even global influencers wearing something, and they quickly want to pick that up. I think how quickly are the markets able to respond to making those trends accessible for those consumers is going to be key. And I think what is also important is that at Myntra, we do everything in partnership. So we have a set of partners who are able to bring global trends to these consumers and bring them at a speed which is acceptable to them. So I think that's what for us is, I think my way of responding to this question is that we have fashion for the Gen Z consumers. We have an offering called Style Cast, which is about global trends, making it more accessible to our consumers through a set of partners that we have. And that's how we build that part of the business.
Okay. Since you were talking about social media, I want to talk about the fact that, you also now increasingly have a lot of brands that are only selling on social media, and you have consumers who are, buying those. And at the other end, of course, we have large organized players like yourself. So my question is, the market has changed so much, and I'm sure it's going to just continue changing. Your view on, one, how this market is changing, and your advice for someone watching this interview to say, this is how we as Myntra perhaps are facing competition, and two, what is going to be this biggest growth driver going forward into 23?
Yeah, I think, one of the biggest things that has happened, especially over the last 2 years in the pandemic, is that India is a big market and there are a lot of niches in India.
Yeah.
And every niche is now seeing a brand which is probably responding to that niche. Okay. And some of these brands, which, the D2C revolution is here to stay. And a lot of the D2C brands have found their initial traction, initial audience, and initial growth through social media. So consumers have also been introduced to these brands through social media. Okay. I think as we go into the next wave of D2C, in the country, sure. I think Myntra really wants to enable the D2C brands and our customers to get access to these D2C brands. So I think we actually see ourselves as the role of an enabler to help D2C brands and consumers, at scale kind of find these D2C brands, and consumers fulfill all of their needs through our platform. Okay. And that's how we are seeing this as a big bet as we go forward. So as we look at international brands, we also look at D2C brands and look at how do we enable these brands and how do we create access for our consumer base for these brands. And there are a large set of brands that work with us, starting from the Label Life to a huge set of brands on the beauty and personal care, sure. Pilgrim, etc., which are new upcoming brands but find great traction on the platform because we actually enable scale and help our customers discover these brands on our platform.
Okay. I want to understand what your personal leadership style is like, Nandita. And, we've been talking, of course, about the fact that you very quickly needed to, of course, learn on the job. But what is your style like? What do you bring in?
I think curiosity.
Okay.
Humility to know that you don't know everything, and there are people around you who've done this for many, many more years than you, and there is so much to learn. And courage, because you have to take decisions on behalf of your team and help them navigate through some of the tough situations. But I think these are three things. But the largest thing that I believe is my personal style is taking teams together. I think, teams together create magic. So how do you really be the glue for that team where they are inspired, they are working with each other, and they are actually moving the organization forward. Sure. So I think bringing teams together with curiosity, humility and courage, I would say those are the three things that work.
Since we're here, I have to talk to you about the IPO. We have seen so many brands coming to the primary and the capital markets, of course, and everyone has been talking about perhaps your plans. What can you tell us on this?
I think what we are working towards is building the business with the right business fundamentals, focusing on the right things, and we'll come back to you whenever we have news on the IPO.
Okay, I'm going to come back to you and I'm going to hold you to it. I'm hoping to get the first interview when there is some clarity on the IPO. So we spoke about your leadership style. I want to talk about, do you have a favorite go-to when it comes to your dressing style? Because we are, of course, sitting here, so I must ask you this. Forgive me for asking you this question, but do you have like a favorite style, and whom do you get perhaps influenced by?
And I'm not saying this because I'm here in the Myntra office, but Myntra, I've said this before, I think Myntra has really been my go-to destination because I'm a busy professional, so I love shopping online. It gives me the ability to access thousands of styles in the comfort of my home, and I really think the Myntra has been that enabler for me as far as fashion is concerned. But I think go-to style is whatever you're comfortable with, whatever you want to wear. I think carry yourself with confidence. Confidence, I think, is the most important thing which defines your style. So I think that's what it is for me.
Courage, confidence, humility. Very, this has been a very interesting interview in terms of just everything that you've been able to tell us, and and I'm sure our audience is going to have a lot to take away. I also understand that you read a lot, so I'm going to put you on the spot and say, is that something that helps you perhaps de-stress at the end of a hectic day? What are you reading at the moment?
What am I reading? I always read 2 or 3 things together. Okay. So that's something I do. I think yes, I love reading because I feel it helps me connect the dots. Okay. And it helps me just understand worlds that are different from my own and take me away from what's happening in the day-to-day life. Sure. So right now I'm reading The Courage to be Disliked, which is a great book I would I would recommend people to read that. I'm just at the end of it. The other book I'm reading is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. It's a fiction. It's set in a Japanese, it's set in a Japanese cafe, so it's an interesting time travel book.
Okay.
So that's interesting. And what else am I reading? And I'm starting a few other books, I think. So there's a lot on my to-read list.
Amazing.
But yeah, I love reading.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Nandita. Yeah. Your coffee has gone cold, I'm sure. But it's been so good chatting with you here, and thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Out of time on tonight's conversation. If you have any feedback for us, do let us know. Our details on your screens as we speak. Thanks for watching. Have a good night.